One of the best games released this year has finally come out with its first iteration of DLC in a year's worth of planned content. Breath of the Wild's The Master Trials introduces new items and challenges to the open-world Zelda experience, but isn't enough to satisfy the fan base after the initial release. If absolutely nothing else, it felt fantastic to have an excuse to dive back into The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I haven't touched the game for probably a couple of months, despite often wanting to, simply due to the ever-nagging feeling of having other things to play. New fresh content allows me to allocate this feeling to the DLC pack, and for that alone I feel I've received my $30 worth. That being said, when I first delved into the content provided, I felt at best whelmed with what's on offer. The item pack includes a lot of fun throwbacks to previous games, but while the aesthetic is cute, most of the items aren't very useful and the quests to go find them are simply arbitrary fetch puzzles. Included in the DLC are Midna's helmet, Phantom armor, Tingle's armor, Majora's mask, the Korok mask, and the travel medallion. Unfortunately, the equipment statistics are all generally quite low and are unable to be upgraded, so beyond being a fun nostalgia kick, almost none of these outfits have any real use unless you're quite early in the game. The Korok mask, on the other hand, will shake when Link is in range of a hidden Korok, which may assist in finding all 900 of the bastards, and the travel medallion is also a useful addition, allowing players to drop a fast travel point at will. Upon entering the world for the first time after downloading the DLC, the game will inform you of some new quests added to your itinerary. Unlike a lot of my experience in this Zelda game, it verily points you in the right direction with ham-fisted hints which lead the player to more of the same. There's no skill or objective to overcome, simply go to the obvious area and rummage around until you can find the actual location. I'd have almost preferred they had simply dumped them all in an easy to locate chest rather than have me ruin my newly unlocked map trail with added arbitrary fast travelling. And speaking of map trail, the hero's path is another inclusion in the latest DLC, and while perhaps the smallest, is also one of the most interesting. Rather than an item or quest, this feature allows players to view their travel path in the game for up to 200 hours of gameplay. The map will draw out a green path right from Link waking up in the starting area to wherever he finds himself now, and includes all of his deaths and fast travels along the way. Watching my playthrough, I was horrified at how much I fast travel and amused at the places I was going, remembering my various adventures across the open world. Players can gain all sorts of insight into their game habits, whether they're happy with them or not, and it also gives a clear representation for areas unvisited on the map to aid in future exploration. In regards to more missions, the Trial of the Sword will also be added to your list of quests, and Link can venture back into the Korok Forest to return his Master Sword from whence it came, for an opportunity to increase its power. After plunging the sword back into its pillar, Link is teleported to another reality in which he is stripped of all his possessions and presented with challenges. Those familiar with one of the game's best shrine quests, Eventide Island, will have an understanding of what this challenge entails, only this is at a much larger scale. The Trial of the Sword is compiled of 45 challenges, which increase in difficulty as Link goes through, and whilst you can keep your upgraded hearts, stamina, and rune abilities, everything else is removed, and forcing the player to rely only on the items the game drip feeds you through the gauntlet. This will put even the most experienced players through their paces. There are only 2 checkpoints throughout the challenges, and dying at any point will set you back to the last one you encountered, or remove you from the trial if you've yet to get that far. What's great about this quest is it builds on the concept of using everything you've learned throughout the game rather than allowing you to rely on your stores of food and leveled up armor. However, for many players, only allowing 2 checkpoints will make for a frustrating experience rather than a fun one. The final addition included in the first DLC is the Master Mode. This new play mode is now an option in the startup menu and will grant players a new save file from the beginning of the game. In this mode, enemies are all leveled up from what they appear and recover health when not damaged. However, this is not your average hard mode, as Nintendo have made changes beyond the usual to make for a greater challenge. The world itself has been shaken up slightly, with boss tier enemies found in new locations, including a Lionel in the starting area, as well as floating platforms throughout the world, hiding both treasures and dangers to keep players on their toes. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a fantastic game, and the addition of its first DLC pack only adds to it. While many of the items are mostly silly and will be useless for most players, the Korok Mask, Travel Medallion, and Hero's Path addition to the map will allow for greater exploration and item finding for those looking to knock a few extra points off their completion. The Trial of the Sword is wickedly challenging, while still having some very clever design, and Master Mode adds difficulty in ways beyond simply increasing the strength of monsters. That being said, this DLC pack doesn't exactly contain something for everyone, and those who are after more story-driven content will just have to wait for the Champion's Ballad, which was included in the price and will release later this year. A bit of a mixed bag, but no doubt worth it for anyone wanting to squeeze some more out of this fantastic Zelda title, and that's why we've given The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild The Master Trials DLC 3.4 out of 5. For more Breath of the Wild content, be sure to check out the full written review on stickytrigger.com, and you can find guides to help you find all the items included in this DLC in this playlist.